Hello, and welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, sci-fi, and horror novels. I'm Evan.
And I'm Chad.
And you're joining us today for our recap and discussion of Persepolis Rising, Book 7 in the Expanse by James S.A. Corey. I mentioned in one of my TikTok videos that I felt this was a build-up sort of book.
This is a transitionary book. This is a book that we are transitioning between basically all of the previous story, which was 6 books long and very huge and complicated. And then this book begins with a 28-year time jump that really is kind of the change that this story needed in order to keep it going in my mind and keep me there and present for it. But yeah, they're definitely now needing to set up the universe because what they made before was totally changed and erased by this 28 years that just happened. So much more change, so much more learning, kind of a new environment that we're living in, and also simultaneously very much not. So what did you think about it?
I really liked the beginning a lot, and then I didn't really love the middle that much. I felt like it was kind of bogged down with all these kind of like machinations and plans, which was interesting in and of itself, I suppose.
Kinda.
And then, I thought that the drummer chapters could they lifted out just a little bit, like it felt like I had padding. I don't think Drummer's a bad character at all, but I was much more into the Sing chapters. Those were kind of like what was carrying me through because I felt like he was a much more complicated character. And then obviously the crew of the Rosinante, it was kind of bittersweet to see them so old and kind of the reaction of the crew to Holden and Naomi choosing to leave and everything. It just felt like the end of an era that we had spent 6 books with. And another thing too is that this book felt really dark and almost like kind of hopeless. Almost like it had
very
that
much
vibe
so.
to it. It felt like we were already defeated.
Yeah.
Before this book even really ended, which I think maybe that was the whole point of it, but like the armies and societies and governments of Mars and Earth and the Belt were sort of caught with their pants down here, and the crew were so used to seeing this crew running around the solar system just kicking ass and taking names, and now they're all kind of
brand new like sparkly ship that's like state of the art, now it's like rusty.
Now they're in this old rust bucket and they're all kind of geriatric, and it just felt like nobody in the entire book was ready for what was going to happen, which it was cool to see, but also I felt like it kind of like stumbled through, and I don't know if that was the whole point of the book or anything, but like I said at the beginning, it's just kind of a build-up kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you, and kind of your point of it being like just a little bit like everyone's old, and like you want your crew to have like the magic sword, the state-of-the-art spaceship, the thing that gives them the edge over everyone else, and it's like now I don't really know what that is besides like their wit and experience like running errands for various factions in the solar system. Like I don't know, and I feel we'll get into it after the recap here, but I wanted there to be more change that passed in this 28 years. It was like, okay, well, everything's the same. Like, I don't know, just like, and we're going to skip over this 28 years.
We need to talk
boring.
about that.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's get right into the recap and we'll discuss further.
Let's do it. Our story begins 28 years after the events concluding Babylon's ashes on Laconia. Paolo Cortazar is the head of the university and leading the research on the protomolecule. He has been experimenting by infecting criminals and then disposing of their corpses when done with them. Paolo has been injecting Winston Duarte, who is now High Council and military dictator of the Laconian Empire, with protomolecule-derived concoctions, hoping to achieve immortality, something Duarte considers imperative to achieve his goal of a united humanity under the rule of himself. No one else should be immortal in his view, just the leader, so he can rule the human race for all eternity. While immortality still eludes them, Duarte does begin gaining new organs and abilities, such as no longer needing to sleep and an awareness of another's thoughts. Kamina Drummer is president of the Transport Union, a sovereign federation established at the end of the Free Navy conflict. During a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the opening of a new transfer station, she learns that an unauthorized ship came out of the Freehold Gate and then went into the Oberon one. This occurred very close to another ship that was scheduled to go through the gates. Should both have happened at the same time, the gate threshold would have been exceeded and both would have disappeared. Which is why informing the trade union on Medina Station of any and all gate activity is so important. The Rosinante's crew is asked to deal with the system of Freehold, as their breaking of the gate rules cannot go unanswered. At Freehold, Holden and Bobby hold a meeting with the township's council. Holden's instructions was to inform the citizens of Freehold that they would be cut off from trade with the Gate Network for 3 years. Holden changes the plan by allowing Freehold to give up Houston, one of the township's leaders, in exchange for continued access and trade with the Gate Network. Though Freehold is upset, they relinquish Houston to the Rosinante. On the way back to Medina, Houston temporarily breaks free from containment, but is quickly captured once again. Tired of the constant stress and high-pressure lifestyle, Holden and Naomi discuss retiring from the Rosinante and settling on Luna or Titan. When they approach Bobby about this, she agrees to purchase the Rosinante from them and become the new captain. A week later, the Laconian system announces that it will be taking over Medina Station and the rest of the worlds connected to the Gate Network. The threat is not taken seriously, however, as the rest of the solar system recalls them not having the firepower to back up such a threat when they left to form Laconia many years prior. Unfortunately, the two ships that emerge from the Laconian Gate, the Gathering Storm and the Tempest, are unrecognizable and possess powerful technology those on Medina Station have never seen before. Medina Station's hastily gathered defense is quickly destroyed and pacified by the high-tech Laconian ships. The Laconians waste no time in establishing a new government on Medina, led by Santiago Singh. While setting up a new government, Singh is witness to a shooting by a terrorist, which kills his assistant. Clearly shaken by the experience, Singh becomes increasingly paranoid by the attack, leading him to make bad decisions on the security protocol of the station. During this time, the Tempest begins its slow approach and eventual invasion of the Sol system. The people on Medina become ever wary of Singh's rule, and an underground resistance consisting mostly of old and new OPA members join forces with the crew of the Rosinante, which includes the no longer retired Holden and Naomi. Together, they begin to gather information so they can turn the once random and ineffective attacks by the Resistance into a more cohesive strategy that will lead to controlling the station once again. The Resistance receives news that another Laconian ship, the Typhoon, is on its way to reinforce the Laconians on Medina. Needing to act before the Laconian presence grows and are even more difficult to remove, the Underground decides they have a 40-day timetable to get out of the station before the Typhoon arrives. While all this is occurring on Medina, the Sol system is defeated by a single Laconian ship called the Tempest. Palace, Tycho Station, and Void City are seized by the Laconians as well. Their losses are severely felt by the rest of the solar system. During the attack on Sol, a final attempt at defeating Laconia is met with failure, as the coalition of ships throws everything they have at the Gathering Storm, but it is virtually unaffected. Drummer, the president of the trade station, surrenders, wanting no more needless deaths. On Medina, the information collecting has come to fruition, and the Resistance is ready to begin the first stage of recapturing the station. The Rosinante and OPA members first need to get into the air gap security room, which connects to the Gathering Storm. This plan is almost defeated before it starts, as the guards at the air gap room have a dead switch. Holden saves the day by activating multiple security alerts in the area, sacrificing himself to the security team, who captures and detains him. The next stage of their plan is to steal some Laconian-powered armor, so when the time is right, they can turn off all the Laconian-powered armor with an override code. This allows the next stage of their plan to begin. The prisoners being held by the Laconians are freed by Saba, Drummer's husband. During the mass breakout, the Rosinante escapes. Naomi and Clarissa are tasked with sabotaging Medina Station's sensor system, while Bobby and Amos plan on sabotaging the Tempest, so it is vulnerable to their more conventional attacks and can be destroyed. Alex clears the dock and lures the undermanned Gathering Storm to follow. Soon, Amos makes his way into the Tempest, using a cutting torch. Before entering, however, they deactivate all the Laconian-powered armor in the system. Amos then heads to the machine shop and Bobby to the command deck. Amos is unable to scuttle the ship due to the alien technology, which he is unfamiliar with. Bobby, however, once again proves her worth and is able to take control of the Gathering Storm, forcing its crew out the airlock while wearing vacuum suits. Naomi and Clarissa begin their plan to deactivate the sensor package, but are betrayed by the Voltaire Collective operator they are with. With the powered armored soldiers disabled, 5 unarmored security guards surround Naomi and Clarissa. About to be tied up with zip ties, Naomi and Clarissa's chance of disabling the sensor package become more and more unlikely by the second. Clarissa, who has been very sick due to her aging implants, activates her artificial glands for the last time. In the quick melee that follows, the superhuman Clarissa defeats the 5 guards, killing them all, including the defector. Soon, however, she crashes from the chemicals and breathes her last while in Naomi's arms. After the gathering storm is properly pacified, the 20 ships involved with the underground resistance make a mass rush out of Medina. In the aftermath of their uprising, in Medina Station, Singh forms a plan to kill 1/3 of Medina's population to make it safe. Overstreet, Singh's head of security, learns of the plan and explains he had been warned not to let Singh kill Laconian citizens, and promptly shoots him. As the dust settles, the crew of the Rosinante, now only Alex and Naomi, are on the planet of Freehold, while Amos and Bobby are on the Gathering Storm. The Gathering Storm is hiding in a cave on a moon of a nearby planet. Bobby, Amos, and the Belters they took the ship with are doing their best to make sense of the new tech the ship is made from. Holden, still a prisoner, is sent to Laconia. It is made known to him that the species that took a shot at the protomolecule on Illis also took a shot at the Tempest when it used its gravity weapons on Pallas during the fight for Tycho Station. It is known that Holden has experience with the Eye of God that has destroyed the protomolecule in the past. Winston Duarte, who has been taking modifying agents with protomolecule technology developed by Cortazar, no longer sleeps and has the ability to read someone's thought patterns, which he uses to influence and manipulate those around him. The world is in chaos, with the threat of a combined dictator attempting to rule all of humanity and a more mysterious and elusive evil that has the power to eliminate the species as a whole, looming heavily over humanity's shoulders. The book ends with Duarte interviewing Holden, questioning him about his experience and knowledge, and saying that Holden will be crucial in the fight to come with the protomolecule destroyers. Okay, let's talk about the time jump. Let's start with the very beginning of the book begins 28 years later. I'm like, oh, cool. Because I just kind of thought the story was getting stale. How many times can the Rosinante like get in battles and just manage to dip, duck, and dodge its way through these missiles that are coming? And like it was just kind of a tired story by that point. So we needed a shaking of the snow globe, and that time gap did it.
I thought it was only 30 years.
What did I say?
I think you said 28. I thought it was 30 years.
Oh, for some reason I have 28 in my brain, but I have no idea where I got
it. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's like
28 or 30, something like that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's kind of like, do you know that like the Mount Everest, when it was initially measured, was like exactly, it like hit 1,000 on the dot, like 12,000 exactly. So the guy added 2 feet to make it sound more real because he thought people wouldn't
I think
believe
I have
him,
heard that. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Anyway, it was like great, good idea. And then we get back to them and it's like, literally everything is the exact same. Naomi and Holden are just doing their same old thing. They've just had like, I guess, a boring, peaceful 28, 30 years or whatever of just running errands for different factions in the solar system, which is just like still peaceful. And like, they didn't know Laconia was like building up their plotting deviously over on their system. But like, I don't know. So my first problem is nothing changed in the story. What do you think about that?
I mean, didn't Alex get married and divorced again? Which I
yeah,
was like,
I guess.
Damn,
but like,
Alex.
I don't know. They threw it in there as like something needed to happen. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, definitely, because I mean, like Amos and Clarissa's relationship is basically like the exact same.
Yeah,
it's gotten stronger. It's very much platonic, which is totally cool. And then like Bobby and Alex are like best buds,
right?
And like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess it makes sense to not have 2 couples on the ship.
I don't know. They're really skirting around it.
Yeah, they kind of were. I mean, like Alex getting divorced again. It's just like, man, really though? Like,
right. And like, when did he have the time? I guess 28 years, but like,
it's quite a while. Yeah. I mean, I think I see what you're saying though, in the sense that it really does just kind of feel like the crew of the Rosinante, they're just old. And one of the things in this book, with the Bobby chapters, which I really liked the Bobby chapters for the most part, kind of like seeing a lot of this through Bobby's eyes now that she's a lot older too. I mean, she's been one of the best characters in this series, and then being able to see this kind of stuff through her wizened eyes has been pretty cool. I didn't really buy that she was jealous of Holden getting all the attention and stuff, and like still being like I don't know. It just
never seemed to want to be a front man.
It just never really seemed. I mean, like, yeah, I think Bobby knows that she would be a really good leader, and I know that everyone else thinks that too, but it's just like they've been on this ship for 30 years,
right? If you want something so bad, why don't you go do it?
I don't know. I just thought that was kind of like, she's like, finally I get my own ship, and it's like, I mean, you probably could have had your own this whole time, but you wanted to stick with the crew, and like now it's not. I mean, Holden's been the captain of the Rosinante this whole time. Like Holden didn't know. I'm not saying that Bobby was like being unreasonable or anything like that. I think that her thought process, the way that it was presented, made a decent amount of sense. But at the same time, I felt like it just kind of like clashed with her character a little bit. Like her feeling this like kind of resentment almost towards Holden when she had never really like shown that in many ways like beforehand and stuff. And I don't know, it felt kind of like fabricated conflict almost. Like I just didn't buy it, you know. But it's like that was like one of my only real gripes with the book.
I kind of thought that it would be cooler if they would have had Holden and Naomi's retirement happen like a month or two before the book started. So we return back to this like totally different Rosinante with this totally different like power dynamic. And then when they come back, we kind of have to like learn this like who's in charge, which they kind of did, but it didn't seem as powerful because it was like they just handed it to her like a chapter before that.
Yeah, that would have made a lot more
we're
sense.
Back. Okay,
then,
cool.
Yeah, because then Bobby really would have been the captain of the. Because I mean, she was like technically, but only like a few days had passed. You know what I mean? It's like it's too fresh. It was too fresh. So yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but that's a cool idea.
I thought that would have been cool, and like I would have liked a new solar system. Like you're telling me that like we gained access to hundreds, if not thousands, of habitable planets. Many of them with like alien tech on them. Like the first one you went to had false alien moons built around it and installed around it. Like the value and advancement of the human species technologically, not to mention like what we would find, new animals and plants and stuff and ecosystems that could broaden the scope of our understanding and the effect and impact we have on the world around us, like by so much.
I mean, I don't think that wasn't
that. We didn't go out and like check it out. The Rosinante was running errands. They weren't like doing spy missions. Like we don't even know what the Laconians are up to. Like what the hell? What?
I think that was like implied, but James S.A. just didn't make that
write it in there.
Yeah, I think it's implied that like and I mean 30 years is a fairly long time, but it's not that long. I think that there's like a part in the book, I can't remember the exact wording, but basically they were saying, you know, these 1500 worlds, like, yeah, we do have these other worlds and that's great, but starting whole other civilizations like takes a really long time.
Totally.
You know, so like those are 1500 worlds that even after 30 years are still very much getting themselves off the ground, you know. So I mean, but I kind of see what you're saying though, in the sense that you'd think that a lot more resources and like information would be being kind of like beamed around and like I said, I think it is
priority should be getting alien technology, reverse engineering it, and becoming like powerful, right?
Yeah, but the crew of the Rossi and like the POV characters that we have in this particular book aren't like botanists and scientists and stuff. It kind of makes sense that you would just kind of imply it, but it's not like their thing. The crew of the Rosinante, and then, you know, by extension, we've got Drummer, who's in charge of the whole like Belter situation and everything, like all the trade and everything going on with all that.
I did like that though, how they kind of become like the trade federation of the galaxy.
It makes sense. It was like the best possible solution. Yeah, I mean, like the Drummer chapters, I just wasn't into them. Like
me neither.
They were all right. I think that it was kind of cool. If I was going to pull anything out of the Drummer chapters, I think it's interesting that Drummer sent the Rosinante out to kind of like dole out justice for like this civilization that wasn't playing by the rules, you know,
right? And for very good reason.
Well, but it's interesting because, and I think that this is touched on in the book too, obviously, but like Drummer's got like this shocked Pikachu face when another faction tries to do the exact same thing. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think that Drummer was aware of it, and we as the reader are aware of it too. There is a certain irony there, you know what I mean? And I think that a lot of what this book seemed to be about was, if it's might is right in one situation, why is it not might is right in a different situation? Like obviously Laconia has their shit together. You know what I mean? Like
because obviously, of two ships might is right at the same time both disappear.
I don't know. See, it's an interesting, that's one of the strengths of this book, you know, is kind of like broaching that question. It's like, well, okay, so why, and this is kind of rhetorical. It's like, why doesn't Laconia get to just step in? And
right.
Even though, you know, it's like, and it's
very good reason.
It's like the ultimate question of colonization. You know what I mean? It's like, should you, even if, and this is a very big capital I, capital F, even if your culture, your civilization, your society would be a net benefit to whoever you're colonizing,
right?
Does that give you the right to go in and do that? And I would say that's a giant resounding no.
Yes. Sorry, nope.
Absolutely
nope, it is not.
Yeah. But Drummer had kind of like enforced that onto this very distant world who had their own reasons and sound reasons for not following the rules that were set down like this, and not to mention the punishment for that initial world where Houston had
Very
come from.
severe.
It was so bad that I agreed with Holden's really rash decision for once.
Like 3 years. and like, okay, we're trying to expand and broaden the human race. And you're going to say like, oh, these one people, like, what if they're the ones that find the super secret awesome technology from the thing? Well, you're not going to be trained with them for 3. It's like, it's not even good for us. It's not,
but you have to,
that's terrible.
And that's the gross thing about it. It's like, making an example out of like a whole planet. Like, come on, you guys.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
But how do you keep up order of that magnitude, though? You know what I mean? If you have like rules are there for, and believe me, I'm pretty anarchistic a lot of the time. You know what I mean? Like I'm very, my philosophy on a lot of this stuff is a certain way, but like I do understand that there has to be some kind of order to things, and if someone breaks that order, then there has to be maybe not like a punishment where you're killing everybody effectively, but like some sort of like repercussion has to come from not doing something that benefits the whole, but it's so
like
sticky.
We all kind of need to play by the rules, and but only for the sake of everybody's good, like, and only to a certain extent. Rules are there, I think, to kind of hopefully are there to guide us towards like working together and making sure that I don't do something that hurts you and vice versa, and we are able to share good things with each other culturally and like grow together and enhance our ability to grow, not to restrict us and keep us in control. And Drummer was definitely kind of flexing a little bit, and so I feel you. And it's like, like they're on their own world. Like, what's this? Why are you able to get them in control? Like, well, why is that? If they can just break free and do their own thing, which and I'm okay with them being their own thing, but when it comes to them now being like, and we're gonna go take you over now, and now you're our thing, it's like, okay, whoa.
Well, see, this is why I thought I didn't think the Drummer chapters were bad, and like I just said, like you can really pull quite a bit out of her perspective on all of this. I liked her interactions with Avasarala. There was a lot of good in there, but I just felt they were just kind of boring. Like the chapters they kind of just all blended together in my mind. Whereas the Sing chapters and the
Sing was great.
Sing was cool. The Bobby chapters were excellent. We had like an Amos and an Alex chapter thrown in here, didn't we?
I believe so. Yeah, I wrote down all the perspectives here at the bottom here. Yeah, we had Cortazar, Drummer, Bobby, Sing, Holden, Alex, Amos, Naomi, Clarissa, and Duarte, which was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, that was a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it was kind of like Babylon's Ashes had a bunch.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's talk about Duarte. I think this is an interesting thing. I think I'm so glad. I just want to start off by saying I'm so glad that James S.A. Corey decided on the kind of villain that Duarte is. It's one of my favorite kinds of villains, is the very articulate, well-spoken, kind of like you almost want to be you want to make him happy.
Okay, do you agree with my following statement of he is the big bad? He is our Dark Lord?
And I don't know.
With the exception of potentially of this thing that took out the protomolecule species.
I think that and this is just, I'm not even that far into the next book, really. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but like it seems to me that like he has more of an understanding of what everyone is up against, and he seems the most confident that he can usher humanity through.
Yes.
Or cooperate with.
I love his motivation.
Like, yeah. And
he thinks without him, he's doing the Lord's work, man. Without him, the human race will be extinct.
And you know what? From where I'm standing and where Holden is sitting, maybe he's right.
Exactly.
And so that's why it's such a great, I guess villain is such a weird word to use, but I'm going to use the word villain.
He's a villain, yeah.
Yeah, he's a villain. I mean, like,
because anyone, even if their intentions are good, he would press the button that would kill most, half of everyone if his goal is achieved, and that is definitely villainous.
It's like Thanos in the Infinity Saga.
Exactly,
you know
like
what I mean?
Thanos, yeah.
And Thanos is an amazing villain.
That's why he's an amazing villain.
So good. Yeah, so Duarte is giving me kind of like Thanos vibes a little bit. But in this specific situation, like Thanos in the Marvel movies is the kind of like, the buck stops with Thanos, and in this situation that does not stop with Duarte. There's like this whole other thing, which we're in book 8. Like I really hope we get to find out what the hell it is,
And
because
that thing like sneezed on us, or sneezed on the Tempest anyway, which we found out right at the end, which is the same thing. Like it's some sort of thing that made him be like, oh, the thing that destroyed the protomolecule like species and caused this whole like planet quarantine system thing to occur in the first place. It's out there, and it made itself known when the Tempest used some of that protomolecule technology.
yeah, the protomolecule kind of like being mixed in to all of this to the point where they have these different ships. This is getting a little bit lopsided here.
Yes,
You
and
know,
like hit me with your thoughts on Duarte getting alien superpowers.
it's pretty par for the course, I guess, toward the
I
end
mean,
of
not
this
really
series.
though. They're always like technology. Oh yeah,
You're
for the
right.
end,
I just meant like,
but it's
yeah,
very
it's like,
different than the previous. I feel
oh,
like.
absolutely.
Like,
I just
whoa,
meant
whoa.
I just meant for like right where we're at. It's like, well, of course we're gonna have somebody that's like, the like the blue guy from Watchmen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't remember that guy's name.
It
Uh,
yeah, I mean it did make a lot. Okay, I thought about it a lot because I was at first I was like, okay, really, we're gonna go down the alien superpowers road, but then like
mm, mm.
it was pretty good actually because like okay, from like mental monster psychopath who's like willing to do anything to achieve his aim, that's like not enough. They've already thrown the protomolecule at us, which is like basically magic, like it has the tech equivalent of superpowers. So our protagonist, who I think that he is going to be like the big baddie, at least as far as the humans are concerned. On the human side, he will be our Dark Lord of the entire book.
I
I
mean,
think.
maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
know.
mean, I think so. He's going to be the driving force behind it all. That he's going to need to be
Yeah,
killed
he's like
before we
the
can
he's like the
achieve.
liaison, or his party, I should say, like Laconia, um, his his inner circle.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it is.
But I
Yeah,
mean, he's not
he's
even
the
a
main
council. Like
guy.
he calls himself the High Council, but which makes you think of a group, but that's a position and it's him.
I
So
think
like
it's High
he is.
Consul, not High
Oh,
Council.
really?
Yeah. So you would be
Audiobook,
right. Yeah.
audiobook problems.
Yeah,
Ah,
that audiobook narrator is great. He does
yeah, very, very good.
we've gone I've done like 2/3 of this has been in hard copy, like reading the books, and then like another third has been
Same.
audiobooks. I think
Oh,
I
I've been about half
audiobooked.
and half.
Yeah, like I audiobooked all of Abaddon's Gate, and I audiobooked most of Babylon's Ashes.
Okay.
But I read all of the other, like Nemesis Games, Cibola Burn. I read all those.
Read it all. Yeah, I started reading them quite heavily, and then I just recently kind of switched over to the audiobook. I really like the reader, but in order for us to be scared of Duarte, like the regular human isn't going to cut it anymore. We've already beaten the protomolecule, so we've survived an alien like flesh wizard that turned our family into like sentient
Flesh
meatball
wizard.
portals,
Totally.
and Earth being blown up. Like we've gotten past some pretty impressive like things. We have some pretty hefty battle scars on us, and so like a devious guy willing to sacrifice the lives of most of humanity in order to achieve his goals. It's like not that. That's scared. That's scary. So we needed to give him superpowers.
Let's shift over to Sing. What a weird, interesting, cool character. I was not a fan of the way that he went out.
Me neither.
But it made sense, I guess.
Yeah.
But it felt like a very kind of like,
I didn't really get his whole motivation. Like we need to kill like a bunch of these people, and then someone was like, "I was told not to let you do that." Pow.
okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing that I take issue with Sing. Why would they put him in that position in the first place? I mean, like this seems like a really crucial mission,
Yeah.
like it seems weird that they would like put him in this position when they know, like the top brass knows that he doesn't have as much experience with this particular like working with belters and everything. There are other people that are very good at it, but they specifically put him in this position with people that he would disagree with, so it would like harden him or something. Like
I guess like really
maybe,
you're going to go into the training grounds for Medina Station, the key to the rest of the world.
And maybe like I'm not a like veteran military commander or mind or anything, so maybe that is a really good call, but it didn't feel like it. I mean, it felt like this was destined to fail from the beginning, which is why I'm wondering, is Duarte playing like 7-dimension chess here? You know what I mean?
Yes,
like maybe like Medina was supposed to be botched in a certain way or something like that, or like
yeah.
because it just doesn't make sense that like you'd present Duarte and Trejo like these huge military minds. It doesn't make sense to me that that you would put somebody like Singh in this position where it's like when they were okay. Here's another little thing I've got here to
Okay.
maybe back this up. They specifically showed Singh meeting with Duarte and with Trejo, and specifically they were asking him about his family. I think what was going on there is they were kind of gauging him to see if he was like super emotional. You know what I mean? Like if
Oh,
he had a
okay.
reason to be overly emotional in those kinds of situations, because something about it just doesn't really add up and like line up for me. Like it's not a good enough excuse that they were like trying to test his mettle and like make sure. Maybe
Right.
I'm
Because like,
reading
what
the
if he
situation
fails?
wrong.
Then your whole plan fails. The whole thing is linchpinned around this.
I don't know. Like it just something about it just felt, which is why I liked the Sing chapter so much, is because he was so on edge. He was so out of his element.
Highly
And
paranoid.
I mean, it's pretty good reason to be,
Oh,
right?
for sure. I mean,
Like
and then he ends up like his fear becomes to fruition even at the end. So yeah, he had every reason to be.
it was weird reading it in the moment, because I couldn't help but wonder, like, yeah, why isn't this lady in charge? Like, she keeps giving him just awesome advice on what to do here. She's 100% right. She's basically just like, look, I've worked with belters before, and they're going to hate if you do this. It's going to be really, really bad. And he's just like, get out of here, like,
So I think that you're correct in that Duarte is playing super awesome crazy chess. We just don't understand now because like look how it was hinted at that he was working with like Marcus like 20 or 30 years ago on this plan, So it's like
yeah.
I think he's really in it for the long game and got everything laid out. And he's a brilliant guy who's motivated by something. I'm like, well, that seems pretty reasonable, though. Like, why you get to decide that you are the one who lives forever and rules all of the solar system? Like, you know,
I mean, I think we've asked like a flavor of this question before, but like, would the solar system be better off with like, because it's difficult because like on Earth, having one leader of Earth seems iffy,
kind of weird. Yeah, terrible. Well, it really depends. Keep going.
I don't know. It depends on a whole lot of stuff. A lot of people would have to be really cool with a lot of stuff
It
really
depends
fast.
on one thing:
Yeah.
how awesome that leader is. If he's a good leader or a bad leader, because like that's the problem with one system. Yes, we're so efficient, we can do everything done. We're all pointing in the same direction. We're not fighting, infighting, but like to have one person or one body of
Right.
rulership to have that much power seems like it can go. If it does go wrong, it'll all go wrong.
It'll go
You know,
really, really bad.
like
But
one
see,
country
that's
going under is like rough, but we still have all the other ones.
it's like having multiple teeth. That's why we have multiple
Exactly.
teeth.
Yeah, you can lose
Uh,
one, still chew.
Yeah, if you had just one tooth, it'd be
Yeah,
horrible.
you
But
never get in a fight.
okay, so my question is like maybe, and I'm not saying like I'm Team Duarte or anything like that, but it's just I feel like there's a certain I'm making a certain connection here where I'm thinking like this is such an expansive. This is so much. Like it's too much. Like you almost it's almost like it's so out of control. Maybe they do need some kind of like one
Centralized
like
leadership.
immortal like leader that could
Yeah.
like the logic is so sound for a lot of it, but there is that kind of part of me that's just like no, absolutely
Right,
not.
right,
Like that's not the way that this we can't do it like this,
right.
which is why I thought that the beginning sequence of events with Holden going and taking Houston and all of that was a very good kind of like precursor to what's going on majorly in the rest of the book.
The ruler of the whole soul system, like the one ruler who lives forever sort of thing, was very like Asimovian in that, because he has like the ruler that's just the clones of him. He's like got the day ruler and then the morning ruler and then the night ruler or whatever. And he just every time he gets old, they kill one and then like the one that's below him moves up and they're all clones of each other. And I
This
thought it
is
was
what
kind of like a shout to that.
No, no, I agree with you. I mean, this is why I think The Expanse is so cool, is because it's taking a lot of these topics that we've kind of dug into a little bit with other science fiction
Mm-hmm.
writers and other stories and things like that, and kind of lends like a whole kind of like beat up blue collar kind of vibe to everything. And it's like much more character driven, which is why I think this is so popular, is because there is a lot to unpack with all of this. I mean, obviously, some of the main themes of this series seem to be power struggles, power dynamics, and colonization and things like that. Like, who has the right to dictate what should go where and who's allowed to do what? Like, to what extent are we able to like deploy that power and enforce it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially like when culture has spread itself out in the way that it has. I think I mentioned on an episode earlier, I think it was like maybe the first episode we did on this, but on Earth, we're all on the same marble. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there is a certain kind of like we're all breathing the same air thing here. And obviously, I don't know if you've looked around lately, but people
Mm-hmm.
still disagree with each other constantly about everything. We've got whole nations that are disagreeing with each other constantly. But we're all kind of on the same thing, but like when you expand out like this and we've got it would take you years of traveling at ridiculous speeds to even get to the next spot.
Right.
Does that distance start to kind of like break down how much we can rely on each other and how much we can dictate what each other can do?
Right.
I
Right.
don't know. But and to further that question, even if it was shown to be detrimental to a different party, is that other party responsible for changing the way that they live to make sure that the other party like functions correct? Those are
Right. Right. Like playing
huge
by the
questions.
rules sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the story's really kind of wrestling with the idea of like the thing making us deserve that will make us deserve the rest of the solar system, access to the stars, if you will. Oh, is the thing that will also destroy us if we don't do it. Like once we have, like we need to work with each other and peacefully join together and kind of join as humanity and stop letting our petty little differences and squabbles like allow us to just kill each other by the million. And like once we can do that, then we will deserve the stars, but if we don't, it's going to destroy us. So it's like it might give us the stars, but it might also bring
Yeah,
us to our
because like
knees. It'd be our downfall.
what if those differences aren't petty though? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
And even so,
that's
though, they're not as big as Mr. Like I devour species solar systems who comes along. So it's like now we're gonna be facing things out there in the rest of the stars that will require us to be unified. So we must get over it or but die. Now we're swimming in the deep end.
and I think that this is why I would consider Duarte to be a villain, is because I feel like if he really does have the knowledge that he says he does, if he
Mm-hmm.
has some sort of like esoteric connection to everything that's really a threat to the workings of our whole society, why wouldn't he go to other powers in this society and say, hey, I know all of this, let's work on this together? That's not what he's doing. He's saying,
No,
like, pump me up full of that protomolecule stuff, I'll take the reins from here. And that's some villain behavior, like
totally.
that's
And he thinks
some.
he'll be able to take them out too and do better than them and just keep on his reign of power. I don't know.
And that's why I think that maybe the next two books is going to really showcase a lot of coming together. That would be great. I
Yes,
I thought that's what was
we're
going to
gonna
happen
have
in
to.
this book, but I'm, after talking about it with you for a little while, it's like it's very clear that that couldn't have happened in this book.
Yeah.
Like,
They had to
yeah,
come apart before they can become that
I
we can
thought
come
they had
together.
already come apart and come together, but
We did. You're
there's
not wrong.
but there's
We
but
did.
there's but there's coming apart and coming together, and then there's like coming apart and coming together.
Right. Yeah, like World War II level sort of thing. And we've experienced like a little bit of that in the fast little bit of in the last six books, but this was more like no, no, we got to get just to the edge of Duarte. Because, like, I don't know how you felt when this book ended, but like, all is lost, hopeless. The team is scattered. There's some groups that like lost all their bases. Like, we don't really have anything to throw at them. We're like desperately trying to reverse engineer and understand Laconia's technology. So it looks pretty morbid right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what like Alex and Naomi and Bobby and Amos are gonna do exactly. Are they gonna
Yeah.
like mount some kind of expedition to like go save Holden, or it's? Do you think Holden's gonna be where he's at for the rest of the series, or I don't?
No, I think he needs to be there long enough to learn a lot of. I think him and Duarte are going to start like really like hitting it off.
Gonna pal
And
around.
yeah, they're going to be palling around. Holden's going to learn a lot about Laconia, their technology, and the things that is driving Duarte, but is going to ultimately agree with you and I that he is the evil villain of this story. And then will somehow break free or be broken free, more likely, from Laconia with this newfound knowledge and how to stop him.
Huh. All right, I have another question here.
Okay.
What did you think? You finally got a death, or at least a crew member death. What did you think about Clarissa dying?
Okay. I thought it was like, if you're going to kill someone, Make it Amos. Make it Naomi. Make me hurt. Make me hurt. I thought it was a little like, okay, like you knew that three
The
books
one that
ago
was
you should have
already
killed two
dying.
people. Yeah, so you picked the one that was already dying, who was like the newest one on the crew, and like, yeah, cool, but like, let's not
I like
forget we
Clarissa. Yeah, she's
started
cool.
getting to know Clarissa by her trying to kiss. She was the villain of one book, so it was like, I don't
Cool
know. It's
arc.
like, yeah, it was a very cool arc. I have no problems with what they did with the story. She should have died. I just feel like there should be some other more heavy deaths as well. I think it's a little bit like, okay, like, he's a little
Yeah.
wussy. It's a little wussy.
I
Just like,
know
come
it
on,
felt like
guys.
it kind of just felt like they were like dropping Clarissa because they didn't really know what else to do with her.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that's just kind of what
yeah.
it felt
Look,
like
that's
to me.
convenient.
But it made sense, right? But I mean, because it made sense because they had kind of worked in these like faulty, like alterations that she had made to herself, obviously,
Right.
and I think it all worked.
Oh,
Like
for
it
sure.
makes sense that 30 years later this stuff is killing her. Because it was just kind of like this black market stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's surprising she's still around. I mean, like
Totally,
it's,
totally. But I
but
would have rather had like her and Naomi dying in each other's arms after defeating a group of people,
that
their
would have
blood
been.
pooling around the floor.
And
And then the
Holden got taken
Holden,
hostage. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my
then Holden
god.
goes on like a blood revenge off you. Like
Whoa.
wonderful, wonderful.
I just don't think that's what this story is. You
It's
know what I
not.
mean?
It's
Yeah,
not.
this is not what it
It's a
is.
snapshot of our of us leveling up as a species, and ask the question, can we make it? Can we come together and overcome our differences and face the threats that we will be now facing with access to the rest of the solar system, and together and overcome? Because if not, it'll kill us, which
Hmm.
is cool.
I wonder what sort of parallels we could make in our own daily lives around
Boy,
that.
yeah, I don't
I
know. It
wonder.
doesn't seem relevant.
I wonder
Yeah.
where did they pull that from?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Clarissa dying, it didn't. Yeah, I mean, it felt a little bit like, yeah, sure, okay, but I was surprised at Amos's reaction. He seemed very kind of like, I mean, it's in line with Amos's character, I suppose, that he would. I expected him to just like really lose it, you know, like
Yeah.
he's super super upset. I mean, because he's like they have like a daughter, father, like brother, sister kind of,
Right. Very
relation.
familial.
I mean, the whole crew is really familial, but Amos and Clarissa they all seem to have like their own special connections, like Bobby and Alex, Amos and Clarissa, and Naomi and Holden. Like Naomi and or like Amos and Clarissa aren't as close as like Amos and Alex, even though Amos and Alex have been together longer and stuff like that. So I don't know. I was just expecting like maybe a little bit more out of Amos, but I
Yeah.
suppose like he is the kind of guy that would just be like, well, back to the mud, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very Logan Nine Fingers in his way of doing that. What do you think about the fight between him and Bobby?
I loved it.
Yeah, I
I
liked it
really
too.
loved it. I
I
love
was
how
really hoping that Amos was gonna win.
really.
Like I knew he couldn't really. Yeah, I just because he's like the big bad. He's the big baddie in my mind. He's Worf. So when he was defeated, I was like, what? Oh man, come
I
on.
I picture old Amos as Mike from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have lost.
No, Mike wouldn't have lost. No, Mike
No,
never loses.
Mike
But
never loses.
I thought that was pretty cool because the whole fight had like this air of like this was a long time coming kind of
Yeah,
thing, and it made sense that the two people on the ship who kind of like like alleviate their own anxieties and insecurities by fighting would
yeah,
end up having to do it to each other.
of
Like it,
course.
it was awesome. It was actually probably one of the peaks of the book for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really liked
Very
the
good.
occasion and the things leading. I loved it all, except for I was just disappointed in Amos because, like, man, he's like the guy that's like, you don't touch Amos. Look at someone who's in his family the wrong way, and he will rip your arms off and feed you to them.
Bobby's got like Amos is like this like almost empty vessel killer, but
Yeah,
Bobby's got like this whole other edge to her,
yeah, that's
which kind of
true.
makes more sense that she would win because like with Bobby, like
I think Amos was holding back.
I don't know, because like
I think he was holding back.
Bobby's got like this mentality of like I will fucking die before before I lose. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but so
And
does
Amos,
Amos.
no, Amos isn't quite there. He's Amos
I
is like
don't
I'll
know,
die.
man.
Amos will die for his friends. Amos
Sure.
will die for his family. Amos is
Oh, he's not dying for an
unfailingly
idea.
loyal.
No.
No, but he's not gonna like Amos would accept defeat faster than Bobby, in my opinion.
Okay, I
Right.
agree. I would not agree with you if he was defending if it wasn't himself he was defending, if he was defending his loss meant
Totally,
someone else's
totally.
defeat, that he was in his circle of friends, then he wouldn't have lost.
But
But
that's
you're
why
right.
it makes so much
Yeah,
sense
you're
that
totally
Bobby
right.
would win,
Yep.
because she would have kept going until her
Yes.
freaking lungs exploded. You know what I mean? She knew it too, and
Yeah.
Amos knew
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
And
that was
Amos did put up a
excellent.
good showing, but still,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
they
well,
beat
my
the shit out
man.
of each other.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes that's what friends got to do,
You know, yeah. We have a very good friend who just wanted to fight when he had too many drinks, and
Yeah,
we didn't
dude.
want to.
Sometimes you needed to put him down too.
We didn't want to do it for weeks.
Yeah. And then
Finally,
one day you're like, man, I'm actually really into this idea. Sure. And he can hardly stand. So like he just ran into like a hanging storage unit like minutes before that, just like from walking. So yeah, he's already damaged.
can you maybe elaborate a little bit? I was a little hazy on like this other Federation of Planets situation, like the woman that
Yeah.
Singh had kind of like appointed to be his kind of like voice box to every, you know what I mean? He had kind of gotten her to cave, and she was like the leader of this. Was she in charge of like this sort of, for lack of a better term, like United Nations of these new discovered planets? Was that kind of what that was?
Totally, yeah, and I actually really like that. I thought that was really cool because they're called the Association of Worlds, and it's basically all the settlers of these new planets are all really small players in the overall scheme of the power balances of and the hierarchies within the known solar system, right? And so they made this Association Worlds, which you can kind of think of like a buying group for power. They're like, if we're not very powerful all on our own, but it's really intelligent actually, so we're going to be beaten by the already established powers in the universe, but if we can join forces together and create this association of worlds by adding all of our powers up, we can play with the big boys and be powerful. So I thought that was like a really cool and like duh sort of thing that they should have done, but and really hope filled, right? Because they're all working together. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, well, the reason I brought it up and the reason I was a little hazy on it is because where was this Association of Worlds situation initially in that first kind of dust up with that planet that the Rossi crew got sent to? Like, why wasn't, I felt like that
I
whole
don't think they were
concept got,
established then.
I think they were. That's what
Were
I'm
they?
saying
Oh,
is like,
okay.
or at least it was I don't see, that's what I was hazy on, is like, I think I might have just gotten that a little bit muddled up, because I felt like the Association of Worlds got introduced a little bit late into the book,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, wait, if that's a thing, like, is that other planet a part of that, or what's
Yeah, I don't
going on
know.
with that? Like, why weren't they involved in this situation? Or maybe they were, but like, I don't know, I just missed it or
Totally.
something. I don't know.
And
But
like, is
I'm
that
glad I know
leadership?
what it is now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering if their leadership is able. I mean, obviously, they're working with Singh, so I wonder if they're gonna kind of be. I'm very curious now because we've talked a lot about Duarte being motivated by things that like we really should be motivated by. Um, but like his methodology might be an end game might be kind of evil. But like, I really wonder if this association of worlds and Duarte in the long run and everyone will end up being the good guys of our story here.
I don't know. Like,
Like, is Holden never going to be like, I'm on the wrong side?
I mean, see, now that we're
Divides the
kind of like
Rossi's crew
getting,
down the middle.
it's
Oh,
it's funny
please.
because like now that we're getting kind of toward the end of this series, it's like we kind of have this question coming up, and I don't know if this is how everything's going to shake out, but this is just from me finishing the seventh book and having two left. Like, are we going to be kind of left with like a, are we upholding the status quo, or are we going to evolve with these new changes?
Right.
Even though it's uncomfortable,
Well,
like we'd have
the
to.
new changes are like taking over our stations, though. That's not
Yeah, I know, but like
cool.
but and that's why I think it would feel kind of like, if this is actually how it shook out, and I don't know if this is actually what's going to happen, but like I feel like it would feel a little bit lackluster if that's what ended up happening at the end of this
Yeah.
series. But it would be better because like this situation's like working. That's why they were caught with their pants down, is because for the most part, for the last 30 years, like, it's been pretty peaceful.
Been pretty
Like
good, yeah.
it's been all right. I mean, like, it
Right.
hasn't been
Like
a total
zero
disaster.
research into protomolecule stuff, which is crazy from with me to me,
They
but
did a little bit.
man, it was just nuts that like
Not as
these
much as
ships
Laconia,
coming out
no.
of the Laconian gate are like they're unrecognizable, and I was like, wow, you guys didn't like prioritize going and finding this new technology that's like wildly
Well,
powerful. Like
see, that's
what?
the other thing too, is it's like, didn't anybody like keep tabs on like this missing Martian fleet that
Right,
was,
like You
and
didn't
like
have
they were
ambassadors?
already like suspicious that Marco was working with somebody a little bit higher up, but as soon as Marco died, they were just like, it's probably fine.
Let them do their thing. Let them do their
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, like
whatever.
they killed the planet of humanity that started it all, and then drove off. And you guys like didn't decide to like check on them from time to time, make sure they weren't up to super evil stuff. Like they totally were up to. Like what?
They totally were.
Yeah, they totally were. Did Persepolis Rising kind of feel like it was one Frankie short of like the best Deep Space Nine episode ever? It was giving me super Deep Space
It's so
Nine
funny that
vibes.
you mentioned Deep Space Nine because my roommate recently just finished her second her rewatch of
Oh
Deep
wow, it
Space
is
Nine.
not good enough to watch that.
Dude, it's so funny because because I was out in the living room reading, and her name's McKenna. She's one of my roommates, and I'm just sitting out there reading with my dog, and she just like bursts into the living room, and she's like, "Have you watched Deep Space Nine?" And I was just like, "No, does anybody watch Deep
Yeah,
Space?"
right. Has that been the statement been said with that level of
Like,
enthusiasm in
yeah,
like
and
20 years?
yeah, she says you liked it more than Next Gen, and I was like,
Whoa,
"Really
no,
though? Like,
get out of
really?
here. Get out of here.
Like, it's
So
Picard."
she's a terrible roommate, is what you're telling me. Okay. No.
She's pretty cool, but yeah, I was definitely like kind of caught off guard, and I was just like, I did not think like Star Trek Deep Space Nine was not on my bingo card for today. Like, I didn't know
No, I
we were
mean
going to talk about that,
it's
but I
like the
didn't
Star Trek
know.
season everyone makes fun of.
Well, because I'd never watched it before. I've only watched Next Gen and the original series,
Right.
and I didn't know that Deep Space Nine was like a it was like a space station.
Yeah, like an offshoot and it was a space station. Uh-huh.
That's pretty cool. I think
Yeah,
that's
totally.
interesting for sure.
Because all the
Yeah.
other content we have in the Star Trek world follow a ship, the
Yeah.
Enterprise, or some such. And that
Voyager.
was just like very Medina stationy. It's like a hub, a central point of where all the ships come and go. And there's multiple times in the series, like Next Gen and stuff, that they'll go to Deep Space Nine. They'll kind of have these crossovers. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's why I felt it was very Deep Space 90 because it was all about like a station and the happenings within it.
Yeah, and that's why like this book felt a little bit stagnant for me, which is maybe why they threw in like the drummer chapters, because you got kind of like this other look at what was going on in a different part of the solar system, because it was very much like on Medina Station, and we already kind of did that in like in which one was it? Was it Abaddon's Gate? It's like a
I think
lot of
so.
Medina Station when it was
Yeah, there's a
when it was the
lot of it.
behemoth, you know. And then we had like even in Babylon's Ashes, we have like all these chapters from like Who Cares, like POV characters for that are like on Medina. So in my mind, like Medina Station, I'm just kind of like sick of being on it. But I understand how crucial it is to everything. But
But
it's
like
just like
enough. We have 1,500 new planets, and we're on Medina Station. What? Like crazy, and like why the Holden and crew are like, man, we have access. Are we gonna go where like no man has gone before and expanse and
nah.
discover new horizons? Like, no, we're just gonna run errands for the next 28 years. And I'm like, well, okay. Um, However, I will
Okay.
say, all that aside, I thought that the jump forward in 28 years was like a cool way of expanding because like the story is expanding us, humanity's expanding to the universe, but also like expanded the story a little. It made it very big. They're going for an
Yeah,
epic
they're going for
tale
big.
here with tons of levels and interconnectivity and meaning and factions and all this stuff. And I thought that aided to the story. It didn't take it away. I didn't think they did enough with it, in fact, but I do think it was an effective way to add expansion in time.
Yeah, I mean, so with this series, I mean, we're kind of starting to round it out. We're almost on the penultimate book in the whole series, and I
Great
would
word.
say that, thank you. I would say that I like every single one of these books, but I really like a few of them. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
it's like it's kind of split up for me.
Like these are good books, and there's a few great
So
ones.
like for me personally, so far, I would say Leviathan Wakes, Caliban's War, and Abaddon's Gate. Like those first three
Yeah,
books
yo,
are like banger after banger. And then
bangers.
and then like kind of a weird dip with Cibola Burn, and then Nemesis Games was excellent, like really, really good. And then I would put Babylon's Ashes kind of in the same camp as Cibola Burn. And then Persepolis Rising is like on its own.
Totally
It's
on its own. And the
it
first
like
half of it, I was like, meh, 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 meh. And then the second half, I was like, okay.
yeah, this is the
Well,
book
I
I
guess
have like the
beginning and end I
most.
loved. Middle was
Yeah,
not great.
yeah, this is the book I think I've had the most mixed feelings on so
Mm-hmm.
far, because so much of it was interesting and it got me really thinking, but it also felt stagnant. So
Totally.
I don't
And kept
know.
going where I didn't want it to go. I'm like, why am I talking politics on like this trade union station? Like when there's so much more interesting things happening on like Laconia and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty excited to see what these next two books hold for us because
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
surprised.
I keep
Did
being surprised. Yeah.
Did you picture Avisalera as like an elderly woman
Yeah.
previous the 28 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, it surprised me that she hadn't died.
Yeah.
Now she's
Same.
like
Yeah.
ancient.
I think people just live way longer.
Oh, maybe so with technology and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
like she's
people
like
on
90
Earth,
now in my mind,
yeah, people on
easily.
Earth are living until like past 100 like
Okay,
on average, I think.
okay,
Which makes sense. I mean, like we're I mean, as long as nothing bad happens to us, I mean, I think our generation is supposed to be like getting up into the 90s and
okay.
centurions and stuff
That's
like
like the
that.
average. Yeah,
Yeah, and then like I'm sure if our trajectory stays the same medically and scientifically, I wouldn't be surprised if humans in like 200 years are living till they're 130, 140.
right,
You
right,
know?
or maybe like 110. Probably is not a super fast. Well, no, we have like achieved a lot, and
Yeah,
not just in
yeah,
like the quality of life. We have had a lot of quality of life changes over the last few years.
yeah. I mean, just like if you live in a city, the emissions are so much lower. You know, because
Right.
we've regulated like what how much cars can spit out. You know what I mean?
Totally. And if we
Like,
can
and that's
prevent
made a big
something like,
deal. It's
oh
made a
yeah,
big difference.
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, and if we can, keep our average looking strong and not have like a world war that like all the 30-year-olds die or something
that's
and
totally.
destroy our numbers, then well, we might be able to get up into those hundreds.
You know, it's funny though, because it's like I feel like if you live till you're like 110 years old, that's awesome. But you've kind of looked 75
Yeah.
for like 30 years.
Which is
You know,
crazy.
it's
Like
interesting
you
to
can have
think
a
about. Yeah,
kid that is like geriatric. Like you guys can both be buying off the senior menu, getting the discount.
totally. Yeah,
It's crazy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when
Yeah.
like my dad was 24 when I was born. So when he's 74, I'm going to be 50.
Yeah,
Like
that's nuts.
yeah, like we're both gonna be. I mean, 50's not like old, but like it's
Right.
not super young either, you know. So
Right. Is
like,
he still gonna be like doing dad stuff and like
I don't
you're like,
know.
dude, I'm
Maybe
50
we'll.
years old, dad.
I know, seriously. I probably the whole time. Yeah, I imagine. But it's cool. We'll go like old guy fishing and old guy golfing together. You
Yeah,
know?
super, super great. That'll be great, man. Go living old. Crush life for as long as possible.
All right, everybody. That's gonna do it for us today here for Book Reviews Kill and Persepolis Rising. That was a cool book.
I like that book a lot, and I liked some of it not very much, but
We got
overall,
some
very
good
good.
conversation out of it though, and
Yeah,
that's
totally.
important, you know.
Totally.
But yeah, we're almost wrapped up with the Expanse, everybody. Look out for our episode on Tiamat's Wrath soon, and after that, Leviathan Falls, and then we might
Oh,
do we might recap a novella or like a short story because there's quite
yeah.
a few of them. But
I think we should now that
our
we've spent so
Expanse
much
journey,
time in this universe.
yeah, but our Expanse journey is coming to a close.
It is. It is. And with there's always a bit of sadness. There's always grief. There's always like a grieving process with loss, right? But I'm ready. I'm ready for the new stuff to come our way, though it will be with a bit of sadness that I say goodbye to Rossi and their crew.
Oh, I'm absolutely rereading these. There's no
Yeah, yeah. It's
question.
gonna have to
Like,
be like 10 years from now, but yeah.
yeah, maybe, but like I'm keeping
Oh yeah.
these. Like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and I think the reread would be like really fun because you'd probably notice all kinds of different,
Totally.
weird foreshadowing and
Right. And you know it now. So the
parallels.
complexities wouldn't you wouldn't get lost in the complexities so much.
No, no, it'll be like when I reread A Song of Ice and Fire. You know, I was just noticing all kinds of different little
Totally.
things.
In fact, when I was first time I read, I only got through like the eighth one of the Malazan books, but by book two, I was so excited for my reread. I was like, I'm going to enjoy these so much more the second time I read them. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, everybody, look out for Malazan because that's happening in
Oh, it's
September.
happening.
Hopefully, if we stay on schedule, which we haven't really been, but
We're doing our darndest over here.
we're doing our
we're doing
best.
what
We had to
can.
take some breaks, but anyway, I'm gonna
Yeah,
go.
me too.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Look out for our new ones. Check out the Patreon. Check out the Discord. Check out our Instagram pages. You know,
Leave us
all that.
reviews. Love
Leave
us
us
in any way
reviews.
you can.
Yes, appreciate it.
We
That
love
was
you.
Hope you all have an awesome rest of your day, and of course, happy reading.
Bye, everybody.